Have you ever thought of being in a fire? 4 years ago and a couple of weeks ago, Coloradoans experienced the worst grass fires in the history of the state. The last day of 2021 proved to be the most disastrous. Over 900 homes were destroyed. Talk about New Year's fears. This was one of the stories as it happened, moment by moment, as told to me by a very dear friend who lived through it. As some of you may know, I'm from Colorado, born and raised in the cool, thin air. If you've ever been to Colorado, you know that this is where the mountains meet the edge of the Great Plains. Beauty surrounds you and holds you breathless with 14,000-foot peaks hovering over the city of Denver and the Front Range, as it's called. Fire, New Year's Fears. That's our title. Welcome to Dream Builders Diaries, building dreams one story at a time. I'm Genie Craff. Here at Dream Builders Diaries, we dive deep into the personal stories of entrepreneurs and artists and innovators and everyday visionaries, just like you. We believe that every dream starts with a story worth telling. And by sharing these stories, we aim to empower you to create your own dream and the story behind it. Before we get started, grab a paper and a pencil if you don't already have one. Yes, hugs, inspiration, ideas, and dreams come and go very quickly. Don't let yours get away. I still have many, many friends and family who still live in Colorado. The day after the fire, I was looking desperately through my emails and texts for any word from those who live west of Denver, near or in Boulder. That is when I saw it. My email read, I'm sure many, okay, all of you are curious as to what has happened and how we are doing. Call me, Janie. I called the number at its designated time and waited breathlessly. Oh my, I said, how are all of you? Is everyone okay? Yes. Wow, where do I start? My friend said. Thursday, I said. Start on Thursday. After a short silence, he whispered, okay. Big deep breath. He continued. Monday, I had taken my kiddos to Purple Park. The grass was crunching under my feet. I hadn't recalled seeing the grass that dry before, and not dry from frost either. I woke early after being awakened at 3:45 a.m. by my wind gauge and the fact that I did not feel well at all. The wind seemed moderate at that hour, so I went back to sleep. Since I was not feeling well, my wife was watching the kids. Normally, I had been watching them, and the winds were starting to really kick up. Around 8 a.m., I watched tumbleweeds start to blow past, which was rather novel. One minute they were blowing one direction, and the next minute they were blowing the other direction. My wife had taken our oldest out to the park, so I went upstairs and I slept fitfully. When I woke up, I felt extremely dizzy. I felt so bad that I just wanted to lay in bed for another 40 minutes or so. But eventually, I pulled myself out of bed. I could barely function. Even though I didn't feel like it, I forced myself to go downstairs and have some breakfast. I felt a bit nauseous, but managed to get a banana and some cereal in my tummy. This was a good call because little did I know that I would need that meager energy to last much of the day. I answered a few emails and looked at the wind gauge. At our house, we still had only a gust of about 62 miles an hour at that point. It was almost 10 a.m. Meanwhile, the winds of 85 plus miles an hour were occurring near the entrance to Coal Creek Canyon. By 10:45, the windstorm had escalated with winds up to 105 miles an hour being reported there. 11 a.m. Unbeknownst to me at the time, a new fire had started near Highway 93 near Marshall. A grass fire had originated about 2.85 miles from us as the crow flies. This really got my attention. I wrote a post on Facebook about the windstorm. I posted it at 11:07 a.m. I kept looking out the window and noticed something new. Smoke over in the direction of Boulder. Meanwhile, the wind started ramping up at our house. We had a gust of 78 miles an hour. The smoke started getting thicker, and by 11:30 a.m., I began to smell it inside our house. I decided that I needed to alert the neighborhood, so I sent a message on Nextdoor to the 37 neighborhoods surrounding Sagamore, our subdivision. The message read, "Fire has broken out in Boulder. Don't have much information, but given the strong winds, our area could be under threat since the smoke is coming right over us. Be aware and seek additional information immediately." You didn't want to be an alarmist, but when you smell smoke and smoke is right over your head, ooh, it should be a sign of grave concern. However, only a few neighbors responded or reacted to my post. 11:30 to 11:45 a.m. My wife was still out with our son Eli at the park, and I started to see some smoke more to the west. Now I was very concerned. I decided it was time to take some action, so I called my wife. A chill ran up my spine as I could hear her phone ringing in our bedroom. She had left her phone at home on the nightstand. I told Issa, our youngest, to start packing some clothes. I quickly changed out of my PJs into some real clothes and got a couple of suitcases, threw them on the floor. I quickly packed a week's worth of my clothes, and Issa brought in a handful of clothes and dumped them on the floor in my room. I realized I needed to help him. I looked out the upstairs bedroom window, and now I could see billows of smoke. I prayed that the fire would miss us. I still couldn't see any flames, but I guessed that they must be just maybe a mile away or maybe closer, but still beyond the hill crest, which is about a half a mile from us. The winds were really starting to shake the house, and my weather station started beeping. The winds at our house had just exceeded 80 miles an hour. 8:50 a.m. Just then my wife and son got home. Whew, blessings. They hadn't realized that we were all in imminent danger from the fire when they were walking back through the neighborhood. As soon as they got to the house, I grabbed them both for a quick hug and I told them to start packing fast. My dizziness had basically vanished by this point, and I was running on pure adrenaline. It was hard to know just what to pack. We knew what cold and snow were coming the next day, so we focused on getting warmer clothes. My wife had packed the boys' clothes and coats, and I decided to disconnect my new desktop computer that I had just set up the day before. I took that downstairs and placed it beside the door and figured if the house did burn down, which now seemed to be coming a distinct possibility, the insurance company would surely be happy if I saved this $2,500 new machine. I also packed my Surface tablet. But then I realized I can't just put it in the suitcase, as it might turn on, overheat, and make its own fire. So I temporarily took it out. But by this point, the smoke and smell inside the house was getting very strong, and the winds were really raging. The smoke was starting to get thick outdoors, and it was getting darker. I threw the Surface tablet in a duffel bag with a prayer and all the suitcases downstairs. I told my wife to put the kids in the car, and I put the last suitcase into the other car. As we were piling in the cars, we saw fire engines going up our street to the end where they presumably were going to make a stand against the fire. I ran upstairs one last time. I looked at my weather station and it read 100 miles per hour. I was astounded. I grabbed a half full duffel and ran out to the car. The children were in my car, but my wife had needed to use the bathroom. She had gone back inside. At this point, the winds outside were just incredible, and the air felt hot, like 80 degrees Fahrenheit on a 43-degree day. Not good. About this time, a wall of soot blew down the street, coating my face and my hair with soot. I had soot in my eyes, soot in my ears, and my wife flew out of the house and I yelled, "We've got to go now." She got into the RAV4 and I got into our Avalon. 12:10 p.m. I backed out, but by now the visibility was so poor I could barely see past the front of our car. As we started down our street, we were actually going really very slowly, but then when there's so much stuff swirling around you, it's hard to know how fast you're really going. The visibility improved markedly and I could see much better when we got to the corner near the entrance of the neighborhood. Which way to go, I wondered. I decided to turn right and head down Coal Creek Drive through Original Town. Traffic seemed to be much heavier than normal. The story of Lot's wife danced in the fringe of my consciousness. Then my dad called. I tried to explain to him that I thought our house would maybe be okay. It was hard for him to fathom what was happening. Indeed, who could have imagined that this would be happening even 2 hours before? 12:15 p.m. I got an emergency alert text on my phone saying, mandatory evacuation order. This is Boulder County Sheriff's Office emergency notification. Reply with yes to confirm receipt. We had left home only 5 minutes before that. As we turned east on Colorado 128, I had an amazing view looking back towards northwest Superior. A huge plume of smoke was billowing from near our neighborhood. Amazing what 100-mile-an-hour winds can do. From this point on, it just seemed surreal. We were just driving along. Little did we know we were at the leading edge of what quickly grew into a massive evacuation in which 30,000 plus people had to flee their homes and businesses. When we got to Sheridan Street, we turned south and just drove and drove. Where I used to live in Colorado, Sheridan Street was less than 3 blocks from where I used to live. 12:38 p.m. Only 33 minutes had passed since we left home, never to return. Unbeknownst to us, our house was already burned to the ground at this point. 1 p.m. Once we got near I-70, I decided to stop. I went to a PetSmart to use the restroom. In the bathroom mirror, I saw that my face was black with soot. A chimney sweep I am not, I thought to myself. I got a paper towel and washed my face. I knew I needed to chat with my wife about what to do next. She wanted to get even further from the fire and get a hotel. She was worried they'd all be booked up if we waited. I wasn't that worried. I suspected that Denver had something like, 65,000 hotel rooms? Well, anyway, we went through Taco Bell and drive-through and got some much-needed lunch. 1:30 p.m. I decided we should head east. It seemed like we were just driving aimlessly, even though I knew we weren't. Maybe we should just keep driving and go visit my parents in Tennessee, I thought to myself. I decided we'd stop at the Embassy Suites in Aurora to regroup. They were already full. 2 p.m. I called my friend Harold, and he helped us search for hotels and found a Fairfield Inn by Marriott down in South Aurora. We called the Fairfield, and they had availability. We immediately made a reservation. 3:30 p.m. We left the Embassy Suites and drove through rush hour traffic. 4:10 p.m. About 40 minutes later, we had arrived at the Fairfield. I checked us in and brought in our meager belongings. 3 haphazardly packed suitcases, 1 half duffel, some other odds and ends, and a brand new desktop computer. Was anything missing? Where was that Surface tablet? And where was my wife's phone? Ugh. My wife settled us in as the best she could, and then she went out and got some dinner while I watched the news and started to catch up on what had become an absolutely horrifying situation. It was mind-boggling to hear that the fire was ripping through Superior and Louisville. The kids and I felt spellbound watching the TV. We ate dinner and talked with the kiddos about what they were seeing and experiencing and feeling. Then we shared with our children all the things that we were going to need, and we went to Walmart to begin a marathon shopping trip. 6 p.m. Where do you start when you've lost almost everything? We'd made a list of things we most needed, the ones we most needed urgently, I should say. Food, toiletries, gloves, socks, underwear for the boys. I decided it might be good to get some of those plastic plates and bowls, and I bought some nice silverware, the interesting iridescent purplish yellow kind. We decided that we would let this silverware be a symbol that we were going to rebuild better and stronger. 2 hours later, the cart was full and I headed for the truck checkout. I managed to somehow buy about $497 worth of stuff. Not exciting stuff, Mundane, essential stuff, Walmart stuff. I reminisce that at home we had finally gotten to the point where we didn't really need much more. In fact, our home was overflowing with the extras of life. We needed to do a deep clean of the basement, but never had the time. Now, in just minutes, the problem was taken care of for us. 8 p.m. We got back in the hotel room and brought in our bounty. We had some essentials to help us get through the next couple of days. Who knew what the future would hold after that? 10:30 p.m. I had read the boys a bedtime story. I don't remember that I had when I had actually grabbed a couple of their books, but I had. We spent some extra care as we put the boys to bed, and then I looked at the many messages on my phone. I finally had a chance to reflect upon the day. We were just grateful to be alive and that we had all of our family and we were safe and we were comfortable. We were worried a little bit about our neighbors. It all happened so quickly that we wondered if everyone had made it out. We heard from several of our neighbors, and they were all okay. I began to realize that that day's events were filled with providence. If I hadn't been feeling so bad in the morning, it's likely I might have been the one to take the boys out that morning. If I had, I might not have noticed the faint sign of smoke over Boulder early on. I don't normally use data on my phone, so I wouldn't have known about the report of the fire in Boulder or in Marshall. I might have gotten so far downwind with the boys that by the time the winds cranked up to 80 miles an hour, it might have been too hard to get back even to our home. I realized that all of this was providential and maybe a blessing in disguise. I glanced over at the woman I love. She had gotten back just in time. Why this diary? Because this diary demonstrates the magic behind how important it is to understand that our fears are given to us to protect ourselves. If you have ever experienced fear before, during or after a traumatic event, take some time to evaluate those feelings and the fact that if you have the opportunity to reflect, you are lucky. You are blessed. Sometime during that evening, I checked my weather station on my phone. I noted that it had stopped reporting at 12:38 p.m. This was half an hour after we left. Generally, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for a house to burn down. So that means our house likely caught fire about 10 minutes after we left. Wow. And because this family got a fresh start, they had an opportunity to cut loose from the things of the past and make a new future together, with the iridescent purple yellowish silverware to remind them of the strength of love and togetherness. I also share this diary because this powerful diary celebrates the virtues of pride, patience, and even fear. You see, without fear, you may not be able to fulfill your dream or create your greatness. The world would not be the same without your resolutions, your dreams, and the dreams of others. I share this story because, as my friend said, we are at our best when we serve others. Be the caring one. Be the one who allows plans and dreams to be fulfilled. But only you can fulfill your own dream. So where do you start when you've lost almost everything? At the very beginning. The family shared with all of us. Our hearts are filled with gratitude. We have each other, and that's what counts. We are grateful for the outpouring of support from all of you as we start this next phase of our journey and we rebuild our home. Thanks to everyone. Could great fear be a part of your dream? So what is your takeaway from our story today? How does the story relate to your fears and what you can accomplish now and for the new year ahead? Dreamers, believe in yourself, be passionate, work smart, and know your why. Apply what you learn every day. And as you ponder the source of your dream in this diary, I wish you well. I wish you an abundance of resources and knowledge and wisdom with your time and your future success with your dream. Enjoy life and always, always be kind. I want to leave you with this quotation. In the end, generosity is the best way of becoming more and more and more joyful. That's by Dr. Desmond Tutu from his book, The Book of Joy. I'll read it again. In the end, generosity is the best way of becoming more, and more joyful. Thank you, Dr. Desmond Tutu. Special thanks to my dear friends from the Denver Boulder area for sharing their story. I adapted it for the use of better understanding how fear can impact our thoughts and our actions. Special thanks to those of you who listen to Dream Builders Diaries regularly. I am grateful to you. The honor to spend time with you is all mine. Before I close, I just wanted to say this family has rebuilt. It's been a long 4 years, but they have rebuilt. They're happy. They still have their home. The children are doing well. And so we're just so grateful for all of that. So if you don't have it yet, get your 90-day Dream Builders Diary by Genie Craft on Amazon. Like and share this diary, subscribe, contact us to share your story too. Thank you, and until next time, building dreams one story at a time.